you've led global functions, regional teams, and you deliver the results. You have a track record that should put you in any senior leadership team, but somehow you are seeing others post on LinkedIn that they've just started a new vice president position or even a C-suite position, and you are left wondering, when was that job posted? How can I apply for it? The thing is that it's not you, it's the game. In this video, I want to share why 80 to even 90% of the executive roles are never posted online, and why this also applies inside of your own company. Whether you are targeting an internal promotion or a senior leadership role externally, the truth is you have to be invited to the table. If you are tired of getting ghosted after applying or feeling like you've always one step behind, then this video is your roadmap to changing how opportunities find you instead of you chasing them. Have you ever seen a peer of yours announcing they started a new vice president position or a CTO, CFO position on LinkedIn, and you thought, wait a second, when did that job even open up? I always wanted to join their team and this company. How did I miss the job posting? Well, you didn't miss the posting. It was never there. According to Harvard Business Review, up to 80 to 90% of the executive roles are never posted. That's right, they're filled quietly through networks, through executive search firms, and through board referrals. And yes, the same thing happens internally as well. Very often, these roles are already decided before the rest of the organization even knows they are open. Now let's talk about why most executive roles, even inside of your own company, they never show up on a job board. They were never even posted. The very first scenario is the seat is not empty. In other cases, someone's already in this role, but the leadership has decided it's time for a change. And the tricky part is that leader who is currently in this role doesn't even know yet. So everything happens behind closed doors to avoid disruption, because once the rumor spread out, teams get nervous and loyalty declines, and also other people, other leaders in the organization start to position themselves for this role. So the current executive who is still in this position, they also lose their authority fast. Imagine customers, business partners, and teams do not even trust their words or even respect their decision anymore. So to protect stability, companies manage the transition carefully and quietly and confidentially. And the second reason is it could be this is a brand new role. And sometimes company creates a new role that does not even exist before. For example, a C-suite position, a GM position, or VP position, they are created to support a growing business line. And in those moments, they don't go public right away. Why is that? Because it's still being shaped. They're still defining the scope, they might be aligning with the board and figuring out who they need at the table, what kind of profile. So going public too early creates pressure, both internally and externally. So instead, they build the case privately and quietly. They start identify the right person. Now, the third reason is that they already know who they want. So by the time a job gets announced, the short list often already exists. It's built through succession plans, external recruiter calls, or years of observing who could be the best candidate. They are not going to go through 300 to 600 resumes. They want someone known, someone recommended, and someone who is already trusted to operate at that level. And I know what that looks like because I've lived in it. When I was promoted to the Vice President of Region Asia, our company was in the middle of a major reorg. Nothing had been posted, no title had been even finalized, but I was already part of the early conversations, helping shaping the region, defining the structure, and align with senior leadership. When the time was right, I was formally appointed. There was no job posting, no interview, and no application. So if these opportunities are already being handed out behind the scenes, then how do you get on the list? Let me ask you this. Have you ever looked at someone who just landed a vice president or senior vice president role and you thought, but they don't have the experience as relevant as mine? And you are not alone with that thought. This is where many high performers get stuck. At the executive level, performance is expected. It's not a differentiator. It's the price of the entry. What actually gets you shortlisted and promoted is how you are perceived at the strategic level. Here's the hard truth. Companies don't just promote people because they've delivered the result. That's not enough. They are promoting people who are visible, who are connected, and who are already seen as leaders of the future. And that visibility, it rarely comes from just doing your job well. Now let me give you this analogy. At the junior level to middle level, Choosing talent is a bit like shopping for an entry-level car. Say a Toyota or a Volkswagen. You look at the features, compare the fuel efficiency, maybe the price point. That's what hiring looks like when you are just starting out. Very metrics-based. But at the senior executive level, it's a completely different game. Now you are talking about luxurious SUVs like Audi Q7, Mercedes GLE, or BMW X5. You don't make a choice between these three brands based on who has heated seat or a better sound system. You know they all have great features, plenty of features. The decision now comes down to brand alignment, the reputation, the lifestyle, and how it fits into the identity of who you are and where you're going, not about the specifications, right? And this is how executive selection works as well. Everyone being considered already perform at a high level. Everyone has the features. And the choice, it comes down to perception, alignment, leadership presence, and how well someone fits with the future direction of the company. And that visibility, it really comes from doing your job well. Especially internal promotions to vice president, general manager, or C-levels, they are not based on KPIs or who has done more strategic projects, right? They're not counting these numbers. They are based on how others see your strategic thinking, your executive presence, and alignment with where the company is going next. Decision makers are asking this question: can this person influence across functions, across divisions? Do they think beyond their silos, their functions, their regions? Are they already acting like a peer to the current management team? We see this all the time. People with incredible results, they get overlooked simply because they never stepped into the right rooms. They kept their head down, hoping their work would speak for themselves. But in executive world, KPIs don't sell. Strategic visibility does. So who actually decides who step into these vice president, senior vice president, or C-suite roles? If there's no job posting, no application, no open competition, then where do I send my resume and how do I apply? Well, people don't hire resumes, they hire recommendations. At this level, hiring happens quietly, behind closed doors. The process is not formal, it's relational. It's based on who is trusted, who's already known, and who is positioned as ready. Here's how most senior roles actually get filled, and more importantly, what you can do to get into that conversation. Number one is networking, but only if it's done right. This is not about setting up more coffee chats. It's about reconnecting with people who already trust your capability and activating those relationships with intention. Now, you don't want to go to these coffee chat, these lunch meetings with "I'm looking for a job. I am ready. This is what I'm looking for." You won't lead with value, with curiosity, and with clarity about what you bring, not what you want. Very often, people want to help if they already come to the lunch or accept this coffee chat, but they need a reason and they need a direction. Now, let me share the story of Yumi. She's a member of my program. She reached out to a former GM, someone she had a strong relationship with, and now working in a new organization as the head of that organization. They had lunch. It was casual. There was no big pitch prepared behind the scene. But during that conversation, Yumi shared she was open to a new opportunity, and the GM offered her a lateral move after the lunch. It was the same title, different company, a slightly larger scope. At the first glance, it didn't look like a leap. But when Yumi and I looked closer, here is what changed everything. First, we used the medicine conversation formula to turn the informal chats into serious opportunities. Second, we clarified her strategic positioning for the role she really wants. It's absolutely a step up. We don't want another lateral move. And we also elevated her executive presence to match the level she was targeting at. And here's the result. Yumi is now stepping into a senior leadership role at a global biotech company with $33 billion in revenue and over 28,000 employees globally. She will be building and leading a team of 40 people. And here is the key. The role was never posted. So how to build this kind of network? First of all, you want to reconnect with past mentors, colleagues, or senior leaders and ask for insights, not a job, not for them to do you a favor. And be clear about your value and what's in it for them to help you or even invest in you, especially if you are not 100% qualified on paper or tick all the boxes of what they need. And if you feel you didn't represent what you were capable of, you want to follow up to reposition yourself. And that's exactly what Yumi did. Now, if you are living abroad with limited network, you might want to use this next strategy. That is executive search firms. These firms are hired to find one very specific type of leader. They are not posting jobs or reviewing hundreds of applicants. They're reaching out to candidates they already know or who look exactly like what the client described. And their favorite tool is LinkedIn. Most executive search consultants start their search on LinkedIn. They search by title, keywords, strategic projects, and industry impact, or even company names. And that's why your LinkedIn presence is not just a profile, a static CV. It's your positioning tool. So how to show up on LinkedIn? You want to make your headline more than just your title. You want to highlight your domain and leadership strength. Use the About section to frame your narrative as strategic, not just task-driven, not just an execution leader, right? Not just someone who could execute the decisions made by the others. You want to share thoughtful insights at least once a week on LinkedIn. It keeps you visible and searchable. And do not ignore recruiters' messages. Even if it's not the right time, build that relationship. Maybe you could do something to help them as well. And there, you will build your network. Now, let me share with you an example from a supply chain director in my program. So he had only 150 LinkedIn connections when he started. He had been with the same Fortune 500 company for over 25 years, and he worked his way up with a strong, steady track record. For most of his career, he believed that his performance would speak for itself, and that LinkedIn was just for job seekers or suppliers who are looking for clients. But then came a major reorganization. Roles were redefined and teams were reorganized, and suddenly nothing was guaranteed, and he started apply for roles internally and externally. But after many months of effort, he didn't get a single interview, not even one. And that's when it hit him. Even with a stellar 25-year track record, he wasn't on the radar of any decision makers because he wasn't visible to them. To make things even more challenging, he was living abroad on expat assignment at the time, which meant his local network was extremely limited, especially in the region where he wanted to grow his career at. That's when he realized that his name wasn't searched because he hasn't been visible outside of his organization for so many years. Then we got to work on his executive brand. We clarified his leadership narrative and we repositioned his LinkedIn profile to reflect the level he was targeting. And we built a farming strategy and expanded his network 20 times bigger. Within just 2 months, 17 executive recruiters contacted him. Most of these outreach are senior director, vice president, or C-suite roles. Not because he didn't apply for any one of them, but because he finally made himself visible and valuable to the right people in the right way. Now, if you want to target your own company for a promotion because you built a really wide network there and you really liked what your company does, here is what I want to share with you. How and why internal succession planning alone is not enough. And you need advocates and sponsors. Let me share my own story with you. For 8 years, I was stuck at global director level. I delivered strong results and I built a worldwide network, not only across functions and regions, but also across different business units. And I genuinely believed that I had the support internally. I thought the people around me, my manager, my colleagues, even senior leaders, were my sponsors, because they seemed to be really supportive. But then, when a promotion opportunity came and went, and my name wasn't even in the conversation, I was never even invited to any interviews, I finally confronted my manager. Here's what he told me, and it really changed everything for me. Here's what he said. I tried to advocate for you, but I was the only one in the room, and at this level, my voice alone is not enough. You need a network of champions. And this is when I realized that I didn't have real sponsors. I had supporters, and that's not the same thing. So here's the difference between a supporter, a mentor, and a sponsor. A supporter, they cheer you on, they give you encouragement, maybe they even give you great advice. And a mentor, they guide you, they give you perspective, but they often stay in the background. A sponsor, they put their name behind yours. They speak for you in the closed door meetings. They are the reason your name come up when you are not in the room. At an executive level, those closed door meetings are everything. And if no one is advocating for you when it counts, you are invisible, even if you are delivering the best results in the organization. And once I understood that difference between being supported versus being sponsored, I started taking these 6 steps and was promoted to the Vice President of Region Asia. So if you are wondering how to do the same, I put together a free masterclass that walks you through the exact step-by-step process I've used to land 2 VP roles, one in Asia and one in Europe at 2 of the largest Swedish companies by market cap. It's just 1 hour long, and you will learn what it really takes to move from being overlooked to being appointed. You want to click the link in the description to register, and it's completely free. For now, I will leave you with this video to find out why being in the succession plan will not guarantee a promotion and how to fix that. I'll see you there.